On camera. Hey guys, I'm Rudy. I'm with Train. I'm the VRF ductless specialist over there. I've been working out here for the last couple of years and getting these systems out here together. This is really your time and the questions that you guys have for the site and the equipment in specific. So if there's anything you guys want to know right now that I can touch on during the walk, or anything that you guys are looking for specifically, now's your time to let me know. Anybody?
Yeah, anything specific? If not, there might be some questions that arise as we're talking. Let's talk about what we're going to be looking at, maybe maintenance things that we should be looking at.
Absolutely. So have you guys seen and worked with mini splits before? Anybody here? Yeah, I'm sure they're fairly common. You've seen them in garages and seen them in other sites probably. They're mainly used to be cooling our server rooms over here, and they work a little bit differently than what you would expect traditional kind of split equipment to work. They have inverter compressors, so they can actually modulate from 90% of their capacity down to 10% of their capacity. So it's an always-on sort of system. It never has to turn off. It never has to turn off the fan or the outdoor condenser unit. It always runs it at a very low speed, so they can match the load at real time. If ever you have a spike in the load, it can actually ramp up and ramp down.
Are these all one common condensing unit outside or outdoor unit with multiplex coils inside?
No, these are one-to-one. So every single room has its own condensing unit up on the roof, right? And that just gives you more redundancy if one system goes down. They are heat pump, but they're all set to the cooling mode on our thermostat, so they'll never actually have to move into the heat zone. So don't imagine they ever need heating in these rooms.
Can you get any literature?
Yes, absolutely. Do you guys have laptops or anything along with you? Because I have IOMs with me. If you want, I can actually email it out to Ryan here. Yeah.
And I'll shoot it out to everyone.
Perfect.
Yeah, that would be the best.
Sure, yeah.
You got like a circuit board that operates it on the compressor and or the unit itself that need to be diagnosed using the laptop?
A circuit board? Is that, or a service tool? Or?
Right, is there a diagnostic?
We do have a service tool available. And that's when a unit is malfunctioning, you can connect up to the communication bus and you can connect it to your computer and get a readout of how the unit's operating or get more information. One of the biggest things that there are is an 8-digit number code that has error codes on there. And if there's ever any issues, which mini splits are relatively bulletproof, but if you do see some issues and you go up there, it'll display a number, and on the back of the panel has a list of very common issues happening with those units. So
are these soldered joints on these?
These are flared joints over here.
Everything's flared, no brace joints?
There's no brazing on these, not on mini splits.
There's brace joints in the line sets when we add the couple.
Okay.
Other than that, the connection on each end is a flared. Well, we were just talking that the way you're not hiding the flare nuts behind the walls.
Right.
You blend nitrogen in them too, I'm sure they brazed them, right?
Yep, all the factory standards. So part of the process is they have to purge it. We have to evacuate it, triple evacuate it, and then we're good to go. So only
service tool availability, is that something that
service tool available? We have it here at our office in my bag. Actually, I do have a service tool that I carry around with me, and availability on it, I definitely, I think Rich from Apollo actually has a few on there, and I think it could be a discussion if we want to keep it one on site or if we want to keep it with Apollo. So yeah.
So it's not just a matter of plugging in a cable to your laptop?
Unfortunately, no. It needs a converter in the middle in order to make that happen. It's the language inside of it's proprietary, so that converter is actually what makes it available. So yeah. These are all 410A. They have 208 voltage outside, inside.
Single phase?
Single phase, correct. They do have individual disconnects in the indoors, or do they only have one on the outdoor? Do you know?
I believe they only have the one up at the rooftop.
Okay, yeah. So there's only one source of power on there. So flip the disconnect there, you're shutting off to the whole unit. So the only one piece of equipment that we hadn't covered is the condensate pumps that are with the indoor units. Indoor unit styles are wall heads that you'd see on, they're attached up to the wall, nothing above the ceiling, and they have an auxiliary piece of equipment there just to pump out any excess.
Just a plastic hose to a drain. drain somewhere?
Yep, it lies right below the unit, and that is a reservoir for all the condensate that develops, and then it has a float which when activates will take it up X amount of feet to the main condensate line. So we should be able to see everything here. So
did we talk about what the set point is for them?
set points have been set, but it might be even worth a discussion about where PPS would like to have it going forward. I believe they've been set to 68 and cooling mode, and the fan speed on this has been set to auto. And there's a discussion we had with the commissioning agent. When you have an auto fan speed, it allows the unit to actually modulate the fan depending on what the room temperature is. And it does that depending on what the room temperature versus the set point. If you set it at 68, it's at 73, it's going to mid fan speed. If it's at 78 in the room, it's going to high fan speed. If it's right there, it sets it almost to nothing. So.
Those have an outdoor expansion valve at the conditioning unit, right?
Correct. Yeah, mini splits have the metering valve on the outdoor unit. So, other than that, that's fairly it. There's, like I said, it's all inverter driven. It has an ECM fan inside, so it can actually modulate full speeds. So, this system is designed to stay on at 24 hours and kind of just modulate itself with the load and the fan speed. So. There should never be a situation where you walk in and you see the unit turning off. Those are actually our ductless partner at the time was Samsung. So all this unit is actually a Samsung unit that we've worked in collaboration with Trane. So absolutely, yep. So
would we like to go see?
Sure.
Let's go look at the piece of equipment, and then we'll go up to the roof last. You want to go up to the roof?
You know what? Our indoor unit's available right here, with a thermostat available right here. This is probably the first things you guys are going to see on the job, so we might as well just walk to that. So
go.
They're ECM motors. So ECM is actually, the VFD is built into the fan. It's not a separate module. So.
And all it takes is like a special signal to ramp it up and down.
Yep.
Whether it's 0 to 10 volts or 1 to 10 volts or.
Well.
Or is it milliamps?
Well, it is milliamps. It's very low. I mean, on the highest, it's almost like less than an amp at the highest fan speed.
Does it take a special frequency code to talk to it, or does it just take a?
No, that's all through, like, I guess the Samsung's proprietary language and how it controls it. So there's no way of actually kind of hacking into it or anything along those lines. So.
I think that's what Sam's alluding to, is how to troubleshoot motors maybe.
Gotcha. Distribute the airflow across the whole room. That can actually be set to its position, or it can actually be set to a swing wherever you want it to be. First things you guys are going to see is these remote thermostats that actually control the units. These thermostats are set to beep anytime you make a noise, so if I could change the set point, you have confirmation that you're actually making a change on the unit. They have a couple of things listed on here. On the top they have the mode, then they have the set temperature, and then they have the fan speed listed over there. So if you want to pass that around.
Remotes marked where they come from and
The
where
room-
they belong, which room they're supposed to be in.
The remotes are not marked currently, I believe, in the back. Let me check that one second. No, they're not.
Marked where they're from,
Right,
just
right.
in case somehow.
Do they work with other units?
They do work with other units, so they're yep. So a lot of these have their own. Some of these are in kind of double rooms or something, so you just have to make sure you're just pointing at the right direction. So there's not going to be any interference in that part. If you want to pass that along, just so people see what's there.
Is there a way of locking that so people can't get into that?
Lock what specific?
Lock those remotes so people can't get into them and change settings?
You can take them out of the room.
That's the way you can't lock them out?
Yeah. On the wired thermostats, you have the ability to lock out the buttons and button functionality.
Right.
On the remotes, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think we have the ability to do that. So.
What's the tonnage on this one here?
This one should be almost like more than 2 tons. You can see the model number on there.
What's the biggest ones you make?
We make 3-ton units, so it'll go up to 3 tons. If I am looking at this correctly, this should be our 2.5 or 3-ton unit. So this is a fairly big room. A lot of these rooms still don't have equipment in there, so they're just they're cooling the space, and they'll probably be at a very low speed currently right now. But as you add more equipment, they're going to be going through.
These filters are washable?
These filters are washable. They pull out from the top. The other ones, there's another design style that are more triangle style, and you'll see the filters right there available where you can just pull them out. A lot easier to get to.
How often should they be cleaned?
You know, there's a lot of different schools of thoughts on that. It just depends on how dusty or dirty your environment is. I don't imagine there'd be a lot of cross through to a server room, so I would say, you know, twice a year you probably could get away with it. But again, it depends on your workload inside these rooms.
Any other things on PM?
On the preventative maintenance. Yeah. One of the big things is on the outdoor coils. Once a year, if you wash it down on those coils, they seem to collect a lot of cottonwood and, well, not pressure washing, just
water on the roof.
Just regular water. Is there water? I don't. I'm not 100% sure. But all you'd have to do is just kind of wash it down.
Pretty much filter and
filters in here more often.
The condensing. That's all you need to do.
Pretty much. There's not really much outside of that. These things. They're pretty much meant to be run continuously on there. The condensing what? The condensate pump?
Yeah.
The condensate pumps are also, they are designed to run on their own. As they get more, you know, floating, they'll activate on their own. But there could be a situation where they do malfunction and maybe they do leak, and you'll probably see a water patch probably developing right there along the while. So, well, you know, condensate pumps are condensate pumps. They work pretty well until they don't. It's so they are what they are in this industry. It's not unique to us or anybody. It's just the whole industry. So again, to go through it over here, we have an on and off button right up top. That kills it off. It'll close the damper, and that'll just do the opposite right there. You have a couple of different modes. You have your temperature raise and decrease your temperature, and then you have a fan speed setting. Like I said, fan speed settings have been set to auto, so they can actually modulate the room speed. Originally, they were just left to high fan speed. What ended up happening is it just ended up overcooling the rooms. The set was 68, and it was actually 64 in here because the unit doesn't have any ability. It has to have both in order to modulate the room. When it only had the fan speed set, it could only change the valve position in there, and it just couldn't get it short enough in the. So.
Let me guess, these are all on the roof, the condensing unit.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, can you mark Unit 1, Unit 1,
FC16.
Unit 2?
Correct. So you have FC16 listed over here and CU16 up on the top, and that corresponds to each one of these rooms that we have.
I have one clarification.
Sure.
So the design of these is that they're supposed to be set to maintain a temperature set point of 78 degrees, 24/7.
78.
78 sounds better. 68
78.
is way too cold.
Well, yeah. So it's you know, in our previous server room applications, that's what we've had it at before. But if 78, it's probably better. And you're just looking to keep it in that dead band. So if it ever goes colder than that, you'd want it to heat it back up to 78.
To me, that seems ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm just clarification here.
The document just says maintain a set point of 78. I think we should put all of these to cooling
78.
only 78.
Right.
Okay.
Heater's right here going.
Yeah. You don't need to stumble.
You're just going to leave that in cool.
You just leave that in cool and set to 78. I mean, that'll be
So every single split system unit,
right.
78.
Yeah, this ain't like an IT room.
But even the IT rooms are 78.
Yeah, IT room's right, but this doesn't have the heat load quite like an IT room.
Interesting. Okay.
Transformers.
Rudy, maybe you already covered this. Is there any maintenance needs that need to happen once a month, once a year? Maybe you already covered all of that.
Yeah, over here, the first things on the condensing units we have is to clean the condenser coils. Just collect cottonwood, to collect other construction dust and everything up there. No pressure washing, just regular water. You don't want to abuse those fins and actually bend them into the unit.
How often would you recommend?
Once a year for the condensing unit. Yeah, make it easy. You go through all 20.
You guys have water on the roof? You do?
They do?
Yeah.
All right.
I love you. Yeah, it's only
And
400
like you said, we'll check the filters as per, these the rooms don't open up that much.
Yeah, after construction level, I don't expect them a lot of dust to be actually collecting it.
You know, it's not like, oh, you start opening that door, it never gets open.
Right.
I don't know if you heard that, but after this, we're going to go up on the roof, and Ryan here will show us exactly where that water's at. So we're going to go to the main roof.
Just a couple other things on here, nothing that really specific. You can actually change that damper position, so it'll actually start modulating. Whether you want it or not, you can actually keep it at that position and it'll actually stick right there. So you can change.
It's got a little squirrel cage blower in it.
Yeah. It's just
how
little,
many wheels are in there?
it's got one giant wheel.
Just one long wheel?
Yep, and this is on an actuator itself, so you can actually control that. There's one actually button for beep off. I like to keep it on so you actually know what you're doing and know that you're actually making a change.
What's
And,
turbo? Is that just recovery?
I'm sorry?
Turbo?
Turbo, it just speeds up the fan for 30 minutes. I think 25% is what the number is on that. So, other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory on what's on here. So,
Any other questions, guys, before we head up to the main room? Over down here? No?
Those units up on the roof,
right?
get those radiators cleaned out. They have a radiator, right?
Condenser.
They have a condensing coil around that wraps around the unit. Yeah.
Is that sensitive to any kind of spray and type
We're just gonna
chemicals?
use water on it.
Yeah, just no chemicals. It's a copper coil with aluminum fins, and you know, with the two type of materials like that, it's hard to say what chemicals would affect what material on there. So it's better, no chemicals, no soaps, no nothing. Just all I have to do is just wash it out and get off, you know, the bird hair or whatever it collects up there. So, yeah. Yep.
The more often the better, I guess, because if more stuff is getting between the fins, it's going to be harder to remove, right?
That's true. Yeah. So, but yeah, once a year would probably be plenty enough for. Yeah. These are the outdoor condensing units. These are the smaller size, usually is 1.5 tons, is these single fan units over there. And I don't know if you can take a peek around the corner. There's another set of units that are up there. Yeah. And you can see they're a little bigger. One's even a taller one. That's a double fan unit. So it's just more capacity that they have. They get bigger and they get taller. They need to get, the coil needs to get bigger to get absorb or reject more energy, basically. So.
On this building with these.
I'm sorry?
Got data rooms.
Yeah.
What else are you cooling?
Data rooms, the IDF server rooms, it just seems like those seem to be the majority of what we're going to be cooling.
So it's not like a classroom or an office?
We have one room, the black box to the auditorium, has a ducted unit up on top, and that's serving that space over there, and that's CU20. So you can actually see that both of these guys are currently running right now. They're fairly quiet units, so it's hard to tell just by looking at it, but you can go always right to the front and see just the coil of the fans are running. Some of the units here are installed with this specific blockage over here. It's called a wind baffle. What this wind baffle actually allows you to do is it allows you to cool the unit down to 0 degrees. And in case there's ever a situation where you get that cold, the wind baffle doesn't allow cold air to go fight against the fan. And the fan actually has the ability to modulate its own speed, basically. So that's what the wind baffles are for. They're here by design, basically.
So the outdoor fans are modulated also?
Correct. They have ECM motors just like the inside fan, and you can go right up to them and feel them right here if you need to. Part of what we need to see is also the cleaning that we were talking about. You can already see there's a little bit of, I don't know what this is, kind of a moss or something that's dust that's been collecting over here. This isn't it's not a amount that's going to really affect the performance of the unit, but once it starts getting all the way across the coil, then you're looking at bigger efficiency drops, or you're even looking at not being able to run enough fan across, run enough wind across the coils over here. That could be an issue. So, yep.
And each one of these units has a label on it.
Correct. So on the front of them, we have CU18 and CU03 listed over here, which corresponds to the FCs that they are serving.
We won't be going crazy. We can find where we're looking.
Absolutely. So if you're in an indoor unit, you know where it's at, and you can actually point it out exactly where it would be on the top of their unit. So,
that's perfect.
Yeah. Do you guys want to walk across on this side real quick? Yeah, it's actually the outside air sensor for that one. So.
Is there a disconnect for both units, or?
This is disconnect for each unit. Every single unit should have its own disconnect that controls the power, so you can isolate each one of these. I believe every disconnect should also have a plug over here. So ever you need to work on something, on an auxiliary piece of equipment, you can plug it in, make that work. The couple of things that you see do attach to it is your line sets that go into the unit, and these are your power connections that go in here. So, I'm gonna try to take this one.
You can make that troubleshooting tool that you have.
Gotcha. Yeah. On the inside here, we have a set of, this is where your line voltage will be coming in from your disconnect, basically connected into there. We have our F1, F2 terminal bus, and that F1, F2 is your internal communication. It's a set of wires that go from your indoor to your outdoor that basically gives it communication on how to modulate. As the outdoor unit ramps down, it'll actually give that signal to the indoor unit, so they're both in unison, basically. If you ever do get the service tool and you connect to it, the F1, F2 will be where you connect to it along. So
The unit downstairs has the same thing?
The unit downstairs also has an F1, F2 terminal bus in there. It might be easier to get into the outdoor unit versus the indoor, just because you have more room and a place to access.
They do communicate with each other, so it doesn't matter if you put it here or there.
It doesn't matter where you can put it. You can put it at the indoor or the outdoor. It's the same terminal, and you're getting the same sort of information. So.
Is there a way we can have that tool?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so when you set this up, there's a number of dip switches.
There are dip switches for a lot of these styles of units where you set.
Are they all pretty common per system here, or is every
Yes.
one of them different?
Every single one of the units here have the same dip switch settings.
And
so
can we get that
actually
also on
yeah.
that paperwork?
The IOMs that we will be submitting to you guys will have dip switch settings at the back of the install manual.
Okay.
None of these actually had to have any specific modes or dip switch settings, so they left it on all the factory settings and we're ready to go from there.
My biggest question on all these brands is mini splits like this.
Right.
What happens when you have a grounded out compressor and you have a burnout and contaminate the whole system?
Right.
How do you clean it up?
How do you replace the compressor and clean out the whole system?
Yeah,
right? That's the question. With the if you're speaking realistically, with the unit this small and how tight it is to work in to get to that compressor, you just toss it. That's a throwaway unit. Now, it's not common that compressors grow out on mini splits. Usually is for the multi-head models where oil gets trapped in one of them. Unless you're seeing a fan that's going to burn out on the inside and all the oil or refrigerant gets trapped in the indoor unit, then you're not really going to see a lot of compressor burnouts on mini splits. But if they do happen, it might be more prudent to just get rid of the outdoor unit and replace it with one.
You can't put a cleanup dryer on them.
No. In fact, that's not even allowed by the warranty. If you did put a cleanup dryer in, it would void the warranty. So it's best to just evacuate everything out and just
Not even one on the suction line.
No. The ductless, they have a different philosophy on a lot of things compared to.
So just to reiterate, though.
Yes.
Minus the cleaning once a year.
Right.
For the most part, if there's something that goes wrong, they should call the manufacturer. Correct. That
Correct.
would be their first.
Yep. You'd want to call the manufacturer, and we'd find an idea. I mean, you'd also want to check everything. Fans running on the inside, fans running on the outdoors. Just make sure that those two are going. But if everything's going fine and you're still having issues, the room's not keeping up the temp, it might be worth giving a call to a contractor or to the manufacturer.
Did you do the startup on them?
I assisted on the startup, so I was here on site, but I wasn't the one physically doing it.
Pre-charged?
It comes factory pre-charged, about 25 feet of line set.
Do you add a refrigerant, not have all those numbers?
We have them listed here on the unit.
They are listed?
So it was 37 was probably the factory charge, and then they had the total comes out to 45.8. So
Information we're going to need to know. And
okay, in case you have to.
Those flares are kind of known for leaks, aren't they?
Flares, yeah, depending on how well they're done, they can leak. Yeah, so.
Well, yeah, I just need to know refrigerant levels and stuff like that.
Sure. And they should be listed on the unit. I've seen that multiple places. So.
I've seen guys torque them.
Over torque them?
No, like they have a torque wrench.
Yeah, you do. You have to torque them. There's a lot of people that will torque them, and it's like that doesn't feel right. Even the factory settings, and they'll just over torque it. So it is what it is. So. A couple other things to keep in mind. We have our model serial number listed right here. It's going to be important when you call in the tech support. find out an idea of what the model and serial numbers are going to be. And one of the things we didn't talk about is right up here was we have an 8-digit code. It's our 8 digits where it actually will start flashing. If there's ever any error code, it'll always go through E, and then it will be a 3-digit number.
Where's that list?
I actually lost the thing again. I don't have it on me right now, and it's on one of the bigger units over there. Has it on there?
You said it was on the cover.
Yeah, on the bigger units, the double fan units, has it right there on the back of the cover. It doesn't have it on the smaller ones, but I'll sure to make sure a list for you guys so you can actually just go through these units if we need to.
Sam, make sure we get it too. I know how our shop's trying to do these, and if it comes to us, we'll send it to you.
One last thing we need to cover is our K buttons over here. We have a set of 4 buttons, and that actually controls different modes. You can get it into heat mode, you can get it into test mode, defrost mode. You can force the unit to go into these modes either for testing purposes or it's been worked on and you want to make sure that it's actually all good to go. And that's part of our whole commissioning process. We stuck this into cooling mode, see this run for like 15-20 minutes, see if it actually meet temps, and that'll be good to go. So
the evaporator's iced up?
I'm sorry?
If the evaporator's iced up?
Yeah, evaporator actually icing up is fairly uncommon with ductless units. With the modulation that they have, they won't ever allow the temperature of the coil to go low enough. Now, it will happen if you have perhaps a leak and you have a low refrigerant, and that's going to ice up the refrigerant coil.
None of this is downstairs?
None of these are downstairs, yeah. They're all here or somewhere along the roof.
No, I mean the controls. You can't do anything from the evaporator.
There is a control board on the inside of the evaporator, but
the alarms, it's all up here.
The alarms do exist down there too as well. In my mind, it'd just be easier to get to up here on the roof. You just have more room and space to actually get to it. And one of the things you also do have is your K3 button, which is kind of a reset. It's like booting up and booting down and booting up your computer. It'll be on our IOMs. It doesn't have it specifically on here. So yeah, when you have the ability to do all of that, when you see an error code, sometimes it just happens the coldest day of the year. You'll have like a high top compressor sensor will kind of give you an error. Not an error that the system, it's just beyond its operating range.
You might have to reset it.
Yeah, and you might have to come out here, hit the K3 button, and it'll just go back to its normal operating mode. So, yeah.
I don't know. That service deal, is that handheld?
It is, it's a handheld. It's got 2 leads. One of it goes to a USB, and one of it goes to a set of wires that attach onto the F1, F2. Those are available to get, so absolutely. The only thing I think you need to supply is the set of field wires that you'd have. So it's 18 gauge, 16 gauge, twisted shielded pair on that.
Do you like those better?
The handheld ones? I don't mind them, yeah. Everything's got its own. Yeah.
Any other questions, guys?